Okay, let's continue. We're on page 7 of our books. And if you remember, we're on our way to heaven with Mashiach's arrival in Olam Haba. But in order to get there, we got to figure out, well, a few things. We got to figure out what was going on in Gan Eden. Not only that, we try to figure out what went wrong, which we did last class, eating from the Eitz Hadat, eating from the tree of Tov Ra, good and bad, the changes that came to the world because of that. Now we're going to ask a different question. And the question is, what would have happened had Adam HaRishon and Chava not sinned? By the way, what a strange question. It's even me. Really, had they not sinned? They did sin. Machpat, what's it got to do with me? Why are we discussing this? Like saying, what would have happened had I not been born? You know, I mean, it's a completely illogical. It is what it is. You are born and that's it. Let's say I would have been kicked out of school. I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda. The 3 articles of regret. What's it going to do for you? No, seriously, it's a question. Why is that even a question the Ramchal is going to tackle, and what's going to do with our course? Try to venture an answer to this question. Why are we even figuring out what would have happened had Adam HaRishon not sinned? It's not rhetorical. I'll take an answer. Yeah.
Because they changed how like a reward system works.
So that's what we figure out. The fact they did sin, how reward works. I'm trying to figure out how they not sinned. So that reward system, you can assume, would have been different in some way. You're getting close though, yeah, Elisheva?
We wouldn't be confused between good and bad.
We wouldn't be confused between good and bad, yeah.
Bad gets covered with good.
Bad gets covered a lot. That's a true statement as well, yeah. That is a true statement. The nature of Tov Ra, good and evil, would not be as murky. The separation, the difference between body and soul wouldn't be so vast. So what? It is. Live with it. Because my wife says to me when I feel low and I can't move, she's always, suck it up! And it works.
Maybe to learn Hashem's true colors, like what he's actually about, to get to understand him better.
That's going to be a consequence that we're going to understand the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's plan for the world. Well, I think simply put, it's because that's where we're going. We're going full circle. We're going to see many opinions that says once Mashiach comes and we go into Olam Haba territory, we're going to go back to a world that is all Gan Eden lifnei hachet, before the sin. Pretty big statement now, because we have no idea what it was like, but it's going to change. It's going to change. So let's have a look at the words of the Ramchal, because it's not just a study in academics. This is our goal. This is our goal. However, we would have earned it. Adam HaRishon was given it. According to many Sfarim, the rabbis tell us that's why he actually chose, because he didn't have to work for it. He had a bread of shame. By just giving this perfect Gan Eden world, we have spent thousands of years earning it. Okay, fine, let's have a look at his words. V'amnam, he's going to do a better job than me. That's why he's the Ramchal. The Devar Zahaya, Adam HaRishon, Negia Elu Lochet. Let's say Lochet didn't sin. Shaitan Nishmata, let's say his soul had been Mizachachet Gufan, would have purified his body. Zichuch Acha Zichuch. It would have just got better and better and better. Everything would have been amazing. Ad Shier Mizdachach Hashir Misterach V'nikva B'tadum Nitzchi. He would have had absolute, permanent, everlasting bliss. Life would have been eternal and amazing. Oh, now he's just rubbing it in, right? V'kevan shechat adam rishon. You see, the fact that he sinned, nishtanu devarim, things changed. Shinoi gadol, greatly. V'hu kihine. And what is this great change that happened? That the catalyst was the sin of Adam in the garden and their expulsion from it. The amount of evil that existed initially was not so great as it was throughout history. It was enough there just to help a person gain perfection through their efforts, but it wasn't so bad. It was very spiritual resistance. There was some bad, as we said, as connoted by the snake, but it was outside, it was visible, it wasn't part of your intimate reality. It was kind of like outside yourself. However, when he sinned, evil increased. Evil increased. Alidei cheta nosfu v'nidrabu chesronot ba'am shel adam b'riyot maleh. And both the evil increased, he says, in two places. One, inside him. Inside himself, the evil increased. That means it's now inside us, the Yetzer Hara. An internal conflict. And in the world around us. Creation as well. It became much more difficult to do good. It's hard. Not just people, situations, life. Much, much harder. Because he says the beginning was pretty easy for a person to overcome their natural faults. We said Adam Rishon was Adam. He had Lev Neshama, Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara. He had both. But Hashem created it that there was a lot more Yetzer Tov and a little bit of Yetzer Hara. The only reason he says that the evil increased inside him and it became part of his teva, his nature, he says, shekacha teva b'tzirato hinei, is led to that he's going to have to work much harder to avoid and abandon evil and choose good. B'mash she'yasir atzmo min hara v'yifna, and turn el hatov. Okay? So it just made stuff much, much more difficult. There was Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara, but we have it much, much harder. And who made that happen? He says, Adam Rishon, through his chait. The sin of Adam Rishon was the one who did that. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was concealed. It's harder to detect Hashem. Hashem, as it were, reduced his visibility. He put on the visibility cloak from Harry Potter. Right? He was hard to be seen. You're going to have to work much harder to identify HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're going to need to put effort. You're going to have to double click on events in your life, in history, in the world, in order to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu behind those events. Adam didn't have that. He saw clearly where Hashem was operating, how it was operating. The fact the rain came down. Rashi tells us, I mentioned this last class, through prayer. You prayed, you got. You put 5 seeds in, 5 came out. All of a sudden, 1 seed goes in, 5 seeds go in, and 1 plant comes out. You're like, where's Hashem? What's going on over here? You go and try to do a deal, and you work hard, you work weeks, months, you put your effort into relationships and friendships, and then, gone. Adam Rishon, it's his chait. It wasn't enough for the sin, but it will be like that one more time. That's coming, we're going to see. The Yetzer Hara, I'll just jump to the end, as we'll see. Now, there's going to be difference of opinions. The Kabbalists, if you will, and the rationalists are going to have different opinions about the Yetzer Hara. The Rambam, if you will, from the rationalist world, the one's going to carry on as is, with a clear recognition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No one disputes that. We're going to see that clearly in the prophets. However, when it comes to the Kabbalists, they say the entire nature of this world is going to change. The Yetzer Hara is going to be removed totally. that means the nature of free will is going to change as well, which is hard to understand because we live in that world. So it's very hard for us to understand these things. Okay? Therefore, here's the punchline. Go to the bottom of page 7. The kol shekain shebahakarat, and with this, shebahechrach, you're forced, hishtadlato hamistarech ata now lagil shlemut hine hubabal. You got to work hard to actualize your potential. Okay? And most importantly, to bring yourself back. Histarech tchila sheyeshuva adam v'ha'olam, man and the world. It's like two separate things. El HaMatzav, we're going to have to work hard to return. So it's like, we know what we're doing. All of history, as we said, it's like a circle. It's going back to where we started in Gan Eden. To go back, min HaMatzav, to this condition, Hahu, Al HaMatzav HaShlemut, Shaya Roi L'Adam Shialeh, for a person to become great. That is where we are going. Now, in order for this big fix-up, this big sin fix-up to happen, that we can all celebrate with Mashiach and go pre-sin, some things were necessary which didn't exist before the sin. Turn to page 8, and the Rambam is going to tell us. Sorry, the Ramchal is going to tell us. V'olam, however, milvad kol zeh, besides everything else that happened, Gizera midat dino yisbarach, God used an attribute of strict justice. So we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu relates this world with various attributes. These attributes, that means the way that He involves Himself in this world, come in different forms. There is attributes of din, judgment, which we know through the name of Hashem, which is Elokim. Elokim is the name of Hashem, which is, that's why you don't pray to Elokim. You don't want to do that. That's Hashem's midah of din, judgment. So He used that over here. But He has another midah, thank goodness. Oh, we'd all be dead. Which is called midat rachamim, which is connoted by the name of Hashem, Yud with a Hey and a Vav with a Hey, which is also the miraculous name of Hashem. It's actually a contraction of 3 words. Yud with Hey and Vav and Hey, which is so holy we don't even say it, is 3 words. Haya, Hashem was. Hoveh, Hashem is. Yeh, Hashem will be. When you crunch those together, you get Shem Hashem. That is HaKadosh Baruch Hu above time, order, and nature. He is past, He is present, He is future. Nothing is withheld from God. That is who you pray to. You pray to Hashem. Hashem, the name referring to Yud with a Hey and Vav and Hey. However, sometimes the HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings things upon this world which are judgment. This is one of them. And through His, that's what He means, through His expression of judgment for mankind, to help us reach perfection, not just there to punish us, since we're in this blemished state, He allowed something to occur which did not occur beforehand. What is that? Mita, death. Death would not have been part of creation. Again, we can't even understand this concept. It's like when you're in school, they would tell you, try to think of a new color. Try to think of a new color. You can't even fathom. It's not part of our recognition. What would the world be like with no death? It's impossible for us. However, both man and the world has to go through a period, he says, of absence, of hefsed, of absence, of lacking. Dahainu, hamita l'adam, man has to die. V'hahefsed l'chol shar ha'yoram shikalu imo, and everything else is going to be affected by this. That's why everything in this world that lives must die. Okay? So what's that going to do? How did that enter the picture? What's that going to do with? He says, "V'lo tuchal neshama l'zechecha guf." Instead, the soul would have to leave the body to die and disintegrate because of this sin, after which the body is going to be built anew. That's a reference of the Ramchal to Tchiyat HaMeitim, not to reincarnation, which he does discuss elsewhere, and we will discuss this semester because it's interesting to the general picture of things. V'yaz yachzor v'yibaneh binyan chadash. It's going to make a new building, as it were. V'tikanes b'neshama, and the soul is going to go back into this body, because it was the body that sinned, by eating from the Yisadas, and by tasting it, and seeing it, and desecrating Hashem's word, not to eat from it, and touching it, seeing it, but not smelling it. Ooh, that's interesting. Did you just think of that yourself?
No, because
You've heard that before?
isn't Hashem, like in the beginning, in some source, I don't remember where, like put ruach, like.
We are going to see that the sense of smell was not affected by this. And we're going to see that when Mashiach comes, one of the ways to determine that he is Mashiach is going to be a smell test, says the prophet Isaiah and the commentators. And Rabbi from the Gemara is going to elaborate on that for us, as well as the other commentators. And that's why the word for smell is reach, which is related to ruchniut, spirituality. It is the most spiritual, untainted sense that we have. I just mentioned it there. We will be visiting this idea of smelling. Actually, Mashiach is going to have a unique form of prophecy that no one else has, which is the prophecy to smell and to figure stuff out. He's going to figure out a number of things. Two things specifically we're going to see when we get there are going to come from this ability to smell. I mentioned it because we're in Gan Eden, and that's where these senses were all affected. Right? We have 5 senses. Well, I think when I was at school we had 5, but now probably like 28. But we had 5 when I was growing up, and this one of smell was not affected actually. Okay, that's by the by. So there we are. We now got death. We're now told, don't worry. Well, worry. Death is going to be part of this world, but there'll be a time when body and soul are going to reunite, and the soul is going to have the ability to impact the body one more time, just like it should have, had Adam not sinned. Bottom paragraph. Therefore, one of the decrees against man was there will be this absence, this hefsed, called death, that enters this world, but there's going to be a time in the future where the body and soul are going to reunite, and that's resurrection of the dead, which is going to be the final part of our course, which is why there's the introduction, which is going to be the 13th principle of the Rambam, and truth be told, we know very little about it. The prophet Isaiah tells us, Ayin lo ra'ah, no eye prophesied and saw what that is going to really be like. We know it's going to happen. You must believe in it, because the prophets tell us, but we got no idea. Mashiach is number 12 or 13. Tons written on that. Oh, we get a very clear picture of what's going to be happening. You're going to get a clear picture of what's happening in people's homes. What family life's going, what the government's going to be like before Mashiach comes. Oh, we're going to see that. That's all written in great detail. But not Tchiyat HaMeitim, right? Who inyan Mashamru, that's what the Rabbi says. She'alfei shana havi alma, that for 6,000 years the world is going to exist as it is. That's the Gemara we quoted before, remember that? And then it's going to be desolate for 1,000 years, and then the last 1,000 years is going to renew completely.
What does that mean, renew completely?
Don't know. That's above my pay grade. The Ramchal's going to say we have no idea what that is. That's going to be the 8,000 millennia. 8 which represents Lamalam and Teva. The world is going to be unrecognizable according to him. Complete different reality. Bria is going to be completely different. We're getting there.
Didn't we also say that it's eternal though? So it's like
Yeah.
1,000 years, not eternal.
1,000 years of that process. It's going to take 1,000 years to reach that point. That's going to be where the stuff has been manufactured. Yeah. And look on the bright side. I won't have such a high Amazon bill. You've always got, you've got to always just be thankful for small things. But maybe my daughters won't be spending all that money on them. Okay, fine. Great. Body and soul come together. We'll get there. So let's talk about one of them. I'm not going to really talk about too much, but I added this to the course because I think it's important. Let's talk about the guf, the body. Because, well, let me ask you, how do we view the body in Judaism? How do we view the guf? I mean, from what we said so far, you should have a pretty good idea. So the body has, well, anyone want to answer?
Like the place where our soul is stored.
So our soul is stored, well, actually not our entire soul, the bottom three parts, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama, the naran, as the holy Sfarim refer to it. The other two, the chaim yechida, are connected via a shalshelet, a chain, but they're in Shemayim. But that's where they're stored, right? Just like the shoe holds the body holds the soul. So what does that say about the body? What is it, just like a vessel? It's a kli? It's like a bowl? It's like a tea bag, you use it, done its job, throw it out. What does that mean? So we already said that the two are working together. There is an inherent kedusha in the body, which is why the body must be buried and allowed to decompose and not chas v'shalom burned after death, right? Cremated. Because the body has, because of its closeness to the soul. The analogy which was given to me, which I'll give to you, is a Torah. A Torah is kadosh, it's holy, we know it, it's Hashem's names on it. How about if you're Sephardi, the silver, if you're Ashkenazi, the velvet that covers it? We touch that, we give it a certain kedusha, it's called tashmish kedusha. Certain things that come into contact with holy things, they take on a holiness. Although it was a piece of silver, right, or a piece of metal, it meant nothing at all. You could do whatever you want with it. Suddenly, it takes on an inherent holiness, not as much as the thing itself, but just being in such close proximity to it, it takes on a holiness because of it. I like that analogy. The body is the same thing. The body has kedusha. It should be treated well because of its proximity to the soul. Now we could go deeper, which we will. And that is, the body actually isn't just some random object, right, made up of limbs and sinews, right, and bones. It's actually a representation of the neshama. Now we're going to talk about mitzvot in a bit more detail, but I'll mention it now. We know, according to the rabbis, the guf is made up of two categories of parts, which are ramach, this is not a word, it's a number, and shasa. What is that? And I heard this expression with ramach and shasa. What number is ramach? The gematria. 248. What's shasa? 365. Add those together, you get minus 3 divided by 8. I felt calculus, no problem. 613. Tariyag. Tariyag is what it comes down to, yeah? 613 mitzvah. What's that got to do with it? Because there are 248 limbs, evarim, and 365 shasa gidim, sinews. I don't know, some connective parts.
Where are sinews?
Some connective tissues in the body. We're not too sure. So that's what the body's made up of. How does that add to 613? Okay, which is the amount of mitzvah to the Torah. Now we're going to see a very beautiful piece by the Chavetz Chaim where he actually describes and goes into this in a lot more detail about how every mitzvah actually is going to affect every part of your neshama, and every part of your body is being affected too, which will affect your olam haba. That's why the mitzvah is always pretty much done with a physical part of your body, except for 6 where you can think the mitzvah. Okay? So the body is now not just a bag, right? It gives us the ability to do. Now the Kabbalists go even further. Can I tell you a wild thing I read years ago which blew my mind? Let me just get it right in my head because it's a difficult idea, but it's unbelievable. It makes you look at the world very, very differently. Stick with me, sisters. Many times God is referred to having physical attributes, right? The hand of God, the eye of God, the leg of God, God's strong arm, right? Zerona Tuya, took us out of Egypt with an outstretched arm. Ayin, God's eye. What does that mean? These are terms used in the Torah itself. Does God have any physical properties? Does God have any? No. God doesn't have any physical properties. Nothing physical about God in any way, shape, or form. We know that. It's one of the principles of our faith. En lo guf, en lo dumut guf. So why exactly are we giving God what's called anthropomorphic features, which is a fancy way of saying human attributes? Listen to this idea, it's unbelievable. I'm going to turn it on its head. Why do we do that? So commonly we think, why do we give God physical bodily attributes? What would you say to that?
So we could understand.
We can understand. The Torah speaks to flesh and blood, that's us, in the way that we can understand. Hashem's talking to us. I don't want that. So it says the eye of God doesn't got an eye. It means that God sees all. God hasn't got a hand. It means God is power, strong. God is a leg. He goes, he moves around, he gets things done. That's what it means. So I think Rav Chaim Volozhin and others say you're making a mistake. If that's your understanding, or your only understanding, that's a big mistake. Check this out, listen to this. You think that your hand is the real hand, and God hasn't got a hand, so we will give an analogy, a metaphor. Hand of God. In other words, this is the real hand, and God hasn't got a hand. I can't understand what that means, so I'll give an analogy, a metaphor. Yeah? A mashal. Then it's the other way around. Hashem's hand is the real hand. It's not physical. If it were to be physical, it would look like this. In other words, it's not that we give God the analogy, we're the analogy. You get that? It's flipped. Hashem, it says eye of Hashem, it means Hashem is an eye. He has a real eye. Is it physical? No. En lo guf, en lo dumut guf. He hasn't got a body or any form of body. But if you were to give a physical metaphor of God's eye, this is what it would look like. You see, it's the exact opposite to how we are understanding it. The spiritual world is the real world. But Hashem created an olam and a guf to help us see that world. We are walking analogies. Yeah? Completely different way of looking at everything. In other words, if you want to see God, you could look at the body, which we can, or look at the world. How can you always say see God in creation? Because Hashem is hiding creation. Because He created something which is a representation of Himself. And everything good in this world. That's where the word God comes from, good. God and good, they're etymologically connected because Hashem is the ultimate good. So we say that you have a hand, you're just an analogy for Hashem's real hand. Because the real world is the spiritual world, and Hashem's created a physical world that we got stuck and concealed in because of the sin of Adam and Rishon. It's going to end up being revealed in future days. I mean, truth be told, there's a whole new avenue we could go down, which I don't want to do because it's a whole big avenue. That's how miracles occur. Miracles occur is when you are able, like great people, like one of the great miracle workers in Jewish history, Hanina ben Dosa. Right? There are many miracles. I mean, Jewish history was rich with miracles, right until the Hanukkah story, pretty much open miracles. But when the miracles occur, when a person is able to pierce through and see that Hashem runs the entire world, then Hashem says, you can see me, and therefore you don't need a physical world to blind you or to disguise me. That's actually why there's no miracle. People say, why are there miracles nowadays? Because we're not that level. We don't have the ability to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu really beyond inside creation. We make a separation, says Rav Dessler, between nature and the spiritual world. Yeah.
Sorry. Could you explain that thing again, like word, the analogy?
According to this idea, when it says the hand of God, it means God has a hand. Right? So, but I can't understand Hashem. Don't worry, Hashem gave you a hand to figure that out. Actually, one of the Kabbalists, I think it's the Ben Ish Chai, if you say the name of Hashem, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav of the Hey, yeah, and you put it downwards, you have a Yud, just picture it in your mind eye, close your eye if you have to, because I can't write it on the board. You have a Yud, which is the head, you have the Hey, which are the arms, you have the Vav, which is the Shidra, the spine, and you have the Hey, the legs at the bottom. Right? It's almost like that wasn't my idea. Right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu created this world using his Shem Hashem. Mankind is the epicenter of creation, which is why on Rosh Hashanah next week we say Yom Harat Olam. The world was created on Rosh Hashanah. No, it wasn't. What wasn't created on Rosh Hashanah? What was created 25th of Elul, a week before Rosh Hashanah, 6 days. Man was created because mankind is what creation is all about. That's when it's worth having a world. Without mankind, there's no improvement. Nothing's going to come close to Hashem. So the body becomes a vehicle for us to do mitzvot, but also a physical reality of a spiritual world. That's why we said the word for nature is teva. Teva also means matbeh, a coin. What is a coin? What gives a coin its value? Not its inherent metal, but the imprint on top, the print. So nature is like a matbeh, it's a coin that prints the spiritual world. You can see the spiritual world by looking at the physical world down here. Are we following here? You want a philosophy class with Rabbi Haji? You got philosophy class, Rabbi Haji. You're going to get more philosophy than that. Okay. Having said all that, there is a mitzvah to treat the body well. And that's what we're going to talk about. Let's spend a little bit of time with the words of the Rambam. What my Rebbe used to say, the least studied portion of the Rambam is this piece right now. Hilchot Deyot. The Lord, this is the same Mishnah Torah that discusses the laws of Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, and Tzedakah, and Purim, and Chanukah, and all the other halacha we have. Here's a chapter called The Laws of Conduct, and in there he actually gives diet and health advice. Health indeed, not just diet, also. And he begins, look at this amazing Rambam. You're not going to study this ever again, I don't think so. Let's study it once with me. Says the Rambam, a person is obligated, Yesim aliba she'egufa shalem. Your body should be whole. The body, he said, needs to be strong and whole, the chazak and strong. Kedei, in order, shetiye nafsha, so that your soul, yar yishra, is going to be fit, able, ledat, to know it Hashem. How do you know Hashem? You need your body. You can't be sick with a weak body. She'efshar, look at the words of the Rambam, unbelievable. I mean, in fact, he was a doctor, probably helps, but this is still Torah. She'efshar she'avin, because it is impossible to know. And by the way, which have you studied this Rambam before? Have you studied this Rambam before? You did. It's crazy, right? I don't know, this is every yeshiva. You go to Jewish day school, yeshiva, you study this Rambam. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happened. I print it out, hand it out, and I can't to everyone. You got to take care of your body. because it's impossible to know and understand wisdom, b'chokhmot, v'ura'av, if you're always hungry, v'choleh, and sick, v'echad me'evorav koev, or one of your limbs hurts you. Ad she'gufo shalem la'avod Hashem. You have to be of strong, healthy body in order to know Hashem. The two are connected. The Rambam is basically saying it's a mitzvah to take care of your body. V'yafilu, by the shares of your parents. People of my generation love this. V'yafilu b'shashu yashen. Even when you're sleeping, im yashen ladad, if you sleep with the intention, kidei shetanuch, that your mind can be at rest, right? V'yanuch gufa, you're able to rest your body. Kidei shelo yechales, you don't get sick. V'lo yochal la'avodat Hashem, because if you were, you're going to be you're going to be sick the whole time. Nimsot shina shelo avodah la'makom baruch hu. What that means is, when you sleep, you're serving Hashem. How? With your intention that your sleep, which we now know is crucial for health, is going to allow you to serve Hashem. Hoyil, therefore, Yota guf bria, your body should be healthy, vashalem, and whole. Midarak Hashem. Your body being healthy and complete is one of the ways that you follow God. It's one of the ways of God. Hu sharei yiv sheshavinu edat davar midata, because you can't really know God. Therefore, you must distance yourself. Adam atzmo midvarim, from things hama'avdin zaguf, things that diminish your body. If there are things you eat, or smoke, or touch, or do, which are dangerous. If you like to bungee jump while drinking a triple whiskey and smoking a cigarette, you are not breaking any of the mitzvot of the Torah, but you're doing something asur, says the Rambam. Because Hashem gave you a body in order to know God. You know God through your body, specifically through a healthy body. Yeah.
I have a question.
And let me just finish that. Therefore, and you should act in a way, and he's going to give a list right now, we're going to do together, of things you need to do in order to take care of your body, which is a mitzvah, says the Rambam, even sleep itself. Elisheva, what's your question?
How does this come into play when there's like great Torah scholars who don't sleep but learn all night?
I don't know. I went to yeshiva with great Torah scholars, and they were always clear. You need to get a full night's sleep, and I'm sharing this with you. And we're going to see, you're going to have to eat healthily. Stay away from foods that are known to you and to the world that are not good for you. And you have to exercise. Personally, I always tell my students, you got to get your heart rate up 3, 4, 5 times a week. A minimum 3. That is a mitzvah. The body is there to help you do. It's not, we don't just discard the body like, I'm all about my soul. And therefore you just sleep 7, 8 hours a night. And there's a mitzvah when you do it, says the Rambam. Do some people able to exist and function on much less? Maybe there are. But there's people who know calculus, and I failed that. So it's not for me, is it? So you know what? This is what you got to do. Well, I got a C in calculus. That was horrible, that was. Yeah? And now he gives actual advice. Li'olam lo yachal adam ela kishurev. Don't eat unless you are hungry. V'lo yishta ela kishut sameh. And don't drink unless you're thirsty. V'yal yishen nekavav. He's going to talk about this a lot. Don't delay going to the bathroom. Afilu rega achad, not even a moment. Ela kol zman shetzarech lashtin or lasichat raglav yamod miyad. You need the bathroom? Go straight away. Which somebody is always during my class. I don't know why. It's like people are very machmir on this piece of the Rambam during my class. ran to the bathroom. Funny that. Interesting. Very interesting. Going to my class Sunday. Halfway through my class, I'm in the bathroom. Okay, let's see what he means. Turn over the page. We'll do this Rambam, and then we will, God willing, hopefully do the Ramban if we have time. Now he's going to talk about the worst thing you can do for your body. Right? But this is the Rambam 1,000 years ago. The Rambam diet. Lo yachel adam ad shetimalek reson. Do not fill your stomach. Overeating is the worst thing you can do to your body. Ella yivchot kamot revia sivato. You should eat close to 3/4 of full satisfaction. You should be like, oh, you know, people show up often, I can't move, I can't breathe. Someone says, take some Pepto-Bismol. He goes, foolish person, if I could take Pepto-Bismol, I'd eat more cholent. No! Don't stuff your face. Actually, one of the things interesting we say on Yom Kippur is, we do teshuvah for achilat gasa, right? Don't we? For overeating.
But like pre-Yom Kippur, like it's a mitzvah to eat.
The day before it is to eat. Yeah, it is. Some say in order that Yom Kippur itself you won't be too hungry, and some say that you suffer more in Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Two opinions on that one, sister. Okay. V'lo yishtem mayim b'toch hamazon. Don't drink, or only drink a small amount of water while you're eating. Umazog b'yayin. You should mix it with wine, which is what they do all the time. But you're too young for that. You can have grape juice. Okay. U'sheyatchel mazon letakel. When you feel the food start to be digested, letakel b'meyav in your stomach, shateh, drink. Lishtot v'lo yarbe lishtot mayim v'afilu ki shetekel hamazon. Don't overdo it. Just drink enough that you need. Okay. And don't eat. V'lo yachal ad sheyivdok atzmo yafeh yafeh. Make sure you don't need the bath. Sham yetzarech l'kavav. Don't eat until you've used the bathroom. Until your body starts to raise in temperature. Okay? So you should do some action in order to heat up your body before you eat. Or you should work or exert yourself in some other way. And he says, you should engage your body. Till yourself warm up. And then you should do some, sweat-inducing task until your soul is, you have some, you're composed. And eat. And if you're able to bathe in hot water after exerting yourself, that's also good. And then you should eat. Nice life. Tov v'achakach shohem ha'at v'ochel. So exert yourself, bathe in some water, and then eat. The Rambam is going to tell you how to take care of your body and how to eat. Uliolam, page 11. Kishyachel adam. When a person eats, Yoshev b'mkamo, you should sit. I know we go to these weddings and bar mitzvahs. People walk around and eat after. Well, that's not the Jewish way. I mean, I do it, but it's not the Jewish way. You should sit while you eat. Yoshev b'mkamo, or yata al small, or you should lean to the left. Really? Why should you lean to the left while you eat? As opposed to the right. Where do we see this in action? Pesach Seder, we lean. That's because we have to be like free people. So the sign is to lean. But they say lean to your left because I think they say it's your esophagus, something in your throat. There's a little flap that leans back, lean to the right. It's not healthy. Or they say your stomach's on one side. It's not healthy. That's the Rambam's getting this from. And therefore the rabbis who makabel this said when you eat, because they didn't used to sit in chairs. They used to lie down on sofas when they used to eat. Like Purim style. You should lean to the left. And that we do actually on Pesach. Okay? You should lean to the left, al small. And do not. What did your mother always tell you? Don't jump into the pool after you've eaten. Remember who told you that? Anyone have that? It's a Rambam. Don't ride You're going to exert yourself until you've digested your food. It's not good for you. Next, the mitzvah to sleep. Hayom v'alayla chaf dal sha'at. Night and day are 24 hours. Yeah. Dai lo la'adam v'yishan shloshan. You should sleep for a third. What's a third of 24? 8. That's how many hours a person should sleep. Which science says today, right? 8 hours of sleep is what we need. Maybe some people 7, you know. Or if they're in school, 12. V'hu shemona sha'at v'yeh b'sof halayla. That should be towards the end of the night. K'dei sheyeh mitchilat shenato, that is sleep. Ad shetaleh hashemesh, you should rise with the sun. Shemona sha'at, after 8 hours of sleep. You should try to wake up before sunrise. I mean, now when we have lights, we don't really appreciate this, and alarm clocks, but the sun went up as a way that it was time to wake up. You should try to be awake for that. Yeah. You shouldn't sleep on your face, and not on your back, but on your side. Al Sidah. He says at the beginning of the night, and then on the rest of the night you should flip sides. I don't know how you're doing that, but you're meant to flip sides when you sleep. Outside small, outside yamin, on your left and your right. And don't, but this is a halacha. The Shulchan Aruch brings us down the halacha, by the way. Actually, there's a difference of opinion of the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch on this. He says you should wait 3 or 4 hours from when you, this is important by the way, before when you finish eating, go to sleep. You should not go to sleep on a full stomach. See, last night I did that. I went to Sheva Brachot, and I fressed, and I went to sleep an hour later. And the whole night, things gurgling inside you. It was terrible. You should fast before you go to sleep. That's what he says. I think the Shulchan Aruch says 2 to 3. He says 3 to 4, doesn't he? Ela yamtin achar achila kamot 3 or 4 sha'ot v'lo yishan bayom. And don't sleep during the day. The Shulchan Aruch brings that down. Yeah. Remember, we don't always pass like the Rambam. Remember that, right? There's a mix. The Shulchan Aruch goes from the Rosh, the Ran, and the Rambam. Yeah.
Wait, I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One, you said 3 to 4 hours or 2 to?
He says 3 to 4. If I remember, the Shulchan Aruch says 2 to 3 hours. You should not eat before you sleep.
Also, but obviously you addressed it at the end in terms of not sleeping during the day, but like people who nap because they have a demanding morning or night,
Yeah.
and they don't get that much sleep, but then
You can make it up. I guess he's not saying it's asor. He's just giving advice. I guess.
Same thing.
Yeah. Look at this. It's unbelievable. This. When a person wants to eat basar of or basar bahima, poultry or animal meat, basar ha'of, you should eat the poultry first, lighter food first. Basar off, and eggs and chicken, eat the eggs first. First of all, you eat, and then even the different types of animal. You have light animal, behema daka, behema behema, right? Goat and cow and beef, I'm not sure. Eat the lighter one. Eat the lighter animal first. Betchila basar daka liolam, yakdim adam v'chol davar hakel. You should eat that which is lighter. Umachar hakavan, and afterwards the heavier food. Even the order of food and digestion is important. Remember, this is all in the Mishnah Torah. Unbelievable, right? Like, why do they never teach me this? When I read this for the first time in my 20s, I'm like, wow, maybe it's even existed. V'od klal acher, another principle, b'briat haguf, to take care of your body. Kol zman shadam mitamel, wherever you are doing exercising, v'yageh harbe ve'eno, sabam me'av rafin en chaliba, and you exert yourself greatly, and don't eat till you stuff yourself, and you have a loose bowel movement. Don't suffer from constipation, which the Gemara speaks about tons, right? of ke'iva in your afilu ochel machlot. You can get away with eating bad stuff. If you don't stuff yourself and you exercise, you can eat unhealthy foods a little bit. Just don't overeat. That's the key. He calls that, I don't know what he does that, he calls it somewhere, the poison. Poison to the body is overeating. You can eat some bad foods. And he says, general rule of health, page 12. V'chol mishu yoshev lebetach ve'eno mitamel. Whoever is idle doesn't exercise. Or mi mishav nekavav, or you push up, go to the bathroom. Or mi shemev kashin, or you have constipation and stomach issues, which we Jews are obsessed with. Afilu achal machalot tovim, even you eat good foods, yishmu atzma, up here, and you go to the doctor all the time, you're going to be weak and you're going to feel sick. And he was a doctor. He's saying, I'm not the solution over here. You gotta, medicine begins with food and sleep and health and exercise regime. Very holistic way of looking at the body. Here it is. V'achila gasa leguf, overeating for the body. Kol adam kamon mas sam hamavet, is like a poison to the body. Wow, that's what overeating is. And it's the reason for most sicknesses. Right? By the way, what's the biggest cause of death in America today? No, cause of death. Yeah, heart attacks. Yeah, which they know is directly linked to diet. I mean, there's genetics a part of that too, to be fair. But even that's not a guarantee. You can always, overdo your genetics, or at least react to them. Give yourself a better chance, a fighting chance. Yeah. Or you had bad foods, or you overate even healthy foods. And now he's going to quote, unbelievably, Shlomo HaMelech himself, the wisest of all people. What a Rambam this is! Wow. He's going to bring down. He's about to drop the mic. Here comes King Solomon with his advice. This is what King Solomon says in Mishlei, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 21, 23. Chaf Aleph, Chaf Gimel. Amar, he said with his great wisdom, Shomer piv u'leshono shomer mitzarad nafsho. If you guard your mouth and your tongue, you guard your soul, mitzarad nafsho, from distress. Why does he say guard your mouth and your tongue? Why does he shomer piv u'leshono? Your mouth is two-way street. What you say with your lashon has to be tov. Right? We know the lashon hara affects your neshama. But he's like, but that's only half the story. He says the piv, the mouth, is what you eat. And if you don't take out what you eat, you're always going to harm your soul. That's what Shlomo HaMelech meant. Isn't that wild? Your mouth is a two-way street. We all learn in yeshiva, you got to speak lashon tov, no lashon hara, you're affecting your neshama and distressing it. Because it's true, but you missed out the first part of the pasuk, and that is lashon peh. What you do with your mouth, in terms of what you eat, is also going to affect your neshama. So he's bringing that down as a proof, not of the laws of lashon hara that he mentions elsewhere, right? And the Rambam does speak about lashon hara, but also about healthy eating and take care of your body. Wild, right? Is that crazy? I find that fascinating. That expression of mouth and tongue is a reference to what you eat. Right? From speaking about things other than his needs. Okay? So he's like, that's your double lashon of peh, piv, and lashon. And here's the guarantee of the Rambam. And I think we'll finish with this. Kol hamanhig atzma b'drachim elu. Whoever follows this advice, Shorenu ani arev, I'm going to make a guarantee. La, she'eno ba lidei choli kol yamav. You're never going to get sick. That's a big guarantee of the Rambam, isn't it? Wow. He's willing to put his reputation behind this diet. But there's a lot of stuff I missed out. There's a lot more stuff. You can read yourself in your own time. This actually, when I first started this course 15 years ago, it was like a paragraph, and it was 2 paragraphs, and I keep adding to it. Skin harbe. You're going to get old, and you will have advanced life, okay? And you'll die at a good time, and you won't need a doctor. Be healthy your entire life. But there's a catch. There's always a catch, isn't there? But if you did mistreat your body, or you were born with a physical ailment for whatever reason, or im haya ragil b'minhag min haminhagot ra'im, where you didn't take care of your body from your childhood, or im tavat makat davar, something happened to you, or makat sarat olam, or you got very, very stressed out, some bad stuff happened to you, there's a plague in the world or a drought in the world, you got COVID, it's going to have an effect upon you. Then the diet is not alone not going to help you. You're going to need to go to the doctor for medication. And the Rambam, remember, was a doctor, right? So he's like, well, at some point, if you follow my diet, you'll be fine. But there are things that happen to people outside of their own, which, and v'chol ha-min ha-got ha-tovim ha-elu sha'amar, everything, the good conduct we spoke about, en ri linhog behen ella habari aval ha-choleb. Still, a healthy person should follow this. But if you're sick, right, or one of your organs is sick, or you got involved in mistreating your body for a long time, says the Rambam, such a person, you need to go and take care of that. Go to your doctor and take the medications you need in order to fix that, as the Sefer Refuot, as the current medical literature will tell you to do. That's what the Rambam is recommending. And many people try to figure out where the Rambam gets all the stuff from. Some say he found all of it and sourced it all in the Torah. And some things are hinted at in the Gemara. But a lot of the stuff he puts in here are from his own personal medical work. Right? And he says that if you find other stuff that ends up adding to that from modern medical science, you should follow that. That's the Rambam in a nutshell. We're going to stop over there because the next piece, although it's a moderate sized piece, we're going to end up doing half a class on, which is not time for now, so let's stop over there.